Welcome to Right on Track. I am grateful to my sponsor, the Publishing Club of Laguna Woods, for making this show possible. I'm very excited today about the show. My guest is Liaf Sofer. Mr. Sofer is an incredible, creative, and accomplished individual. He plays multiple musical instruments, is a famous singer-songwriter, has his own band, is a composer, arranger, and musical director. He also teaches at the prestigious Colburn School in Los Angeles. Additionally, he is an invited keynote speaker, co-founder and director of the Urban Voices Project. He's a community activist and humanitarian, all in one person. On top of that, Liaf will be here in Laguna Woods on March 4th, 5th, and 6th at the Performing Arts Center Clubhouse 3 as choir director for an event called One Song, 300 Voices. This event, sponsored by Community Bridge Builders, will bring together village residents and musicians to sing one song of peace, hope, and friendship that will become a music video. There are still some spots left for you to join in this incredible event. It's free with your commitment to attend the 2 rehearsals. See the Community Bridge Builders website to register for this information, which can also be found in the Village Breeze. In a moment, we will be joined by Mr. Sofer. Welcome, Liaf. I want to thank you in advance for volunteering your time for the benefit of the Laguna Woods community. It's such an honor to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
I'm glad. Yeah, it was so much mishigash to get this to happen. But I'm grateful that we are having it happen right now. So how did you get involved in the 300 Voices project?
I do work as a musician and teaching artist around Los Angeles and beyond. And my main element is singing and community singing, in fact. So I think that our 300 Voices team got word. I was referred, and they checked me out online, and we had a few conversations. But one thing that we're all about in the work that I do as my artist mission is arts and wellness and social justice. And when I heard the cause of why we're bringing all these voices together, this is right down my alley. So I was very happy to come together to work on this project.
Yeah, it's amazing how those referrals happen, because similarly, I got referred to the group that you're working with, and I kind of don't know how it happened, but it's a pleasure to be part of such a project.
Absolutely. And I think it's kind of powerful too. I mean, I know that this Laguna community, it's Laguna Woods, correct?
Correct.
I know that this Laguna Woods is very unique. I mean, it's pretty much a city.
Yes.
And it's got a lot of its infrastructure, but it's also a tight-knit community. And to hear that we're here to bring this community closer together, especially with such a diverse community, diversity of people and demographics, music's the best way to do it. It's the most universal language. It doesn't see color, it doesn't see race, it doesn't see gender, expression of love. It's above all of it in some way. And so it's the most equalizing playing field to just have us sing shoulder to shoulder. Very excited.
Yes, it is. And the other thing that I became aware of in studying up on social learning, which is also something, social emotional learning, which is also something that you're very excited about, is that our community can benefit from that as well.
Absolutely. And all ages. And I work on it with kids a lot. I work on it with young adults, and I'm doing it constantly on a regular practice with not just older adults, but also with seniors too. And, I'm always countering that phrase, old dogs can't learn new tricks.
Yeah.
I'm going to challenge that Uh, oh, and the other thing I like to challenge is people who think they can't sing. Oh, I can't sing. I'm here to
Well,
challenge
that's
as well. Nope. I have it's a little tangent, but I'm since we're here, I always remind people, you know, Dr. Diana, go back to your 4-year-old self. Go back
Mhm.
way in however far back in time you need to go. Step into that time machine. Come out. You're 4 years old. Did you ever think that you can't sing as a 4-year-old?
Nope, I did not.
No.
Not, no, I did not.
And what is true is that when you're young and when you're unaffected by all these thoughts of insecurities, you love to sing. You sing out, you sing loud, you sing proudly, and you sing prolifically. And that's
Hmm.
what is true. That's what we're born with. That's the spirit of song. So that means that this idea that we can't sing, it's purely a learned culture. It's a learned
Yes.
concept. And more than likely, I'm typically correct anecdotally that it has come from an adult figure in your life that told you you couldn't sing, not a peer. And if
Absolutely. I'm not going to reveal who, but yes,
And then
sir.
on top of that, if it's not an adult figure that's personal to you, like a parent or a teacher, or then it's typically the television screen, or it's like you're seeing these competition shows or talent shows, and you are seeing people being judged on their voice. And it's a learn once again, this learned culture. And then those that don't feel that they can compare with the strongest talents, what do? They lock it up, throw away the key, and they stop using this muscle, the muscle of
Yes.
voice. And
Yes.
in the end of the day, I don't believe in tone deaf. I just believe in a muscle that has been left alone to the place where it's completely static and paralyzed. And I think that we can actually start singing again to wake it up a little bit. And I don't care
Yes.
how old you are, how late in life you're starting to become a singer or find your artistry, it can be done. As long as you go back to your 4-year-old self and let go of all of that learned culture that you can't sing.
Yes, I believe that. I mean, I do sing to my dog, and I did sign up for the 300 voices.
Woo!
So yeah, so it's going to happen,
Good.
and I'm looking forward to it. And I hope other people who are watching this program who are afraid to sing would join us because we still have some spots open, and I'd like to see people be brave and courageous and join us because I think it's going to be wonderful.
I agree. I think that it's not going to only untap that 4-year-old, that young child in us all, but we'll be doing it together. We'll be becoming a little bit more vulnerable together in a
Yes.
safe space that's asking us to be a little brave. And
Hmm.
that's why you can also, yes, you can hide your voice in the chorus a little bit. That's the point of a chorus as well. Yet at the same time, you're going to start to, what I like to say is you start listening louder.
Hmm. Hmm.
And when you come into a chorus space, even if you've never been in a chorus before, never been a singer before, the way that coming and opening your voice in a room with others actually opens your ears, and it opens your listening in both a technical sense as far as how your voice and other voices come to make one sound, but also it's a action that's one of the few actions that's both sending and vibration out and receiving vibration in at the same time, asking your body and your brain, all parts of the brain, to be turned on in a way that's
Yes.
releasing your serotonin, your oxytocin. It's just moving things in the most beautiful scientific release of joy and
Yes.
relaxation. And you're doing it with others by hearing. If you do it in a space by yourself, there's benefits to it too. But when you're doing it with others, you don't realize how when you guys take breaths together, you actually synchronize heartbeats in the room. When you take
Yes.
breaths together, you all lower your blood pressure together at the same time. When you take these moments of synchronized experience, you also find yourselves giggling and smiling and letting, because you've allowed yourself to get back to that childlike innocence, that place where you stop judging, I can't sing or can sing, and I can just create and do it side by side with my neighbor.
Yes. And I can tell by listening to you and watching you how great it's going to be for you to be the musical director on this project. It's just going to be terrific. And I heard not only benefits of singing, but I also heard little smidgens of social emotional learning. And I did have something to put up on the screen.
So social and emotional learning is it's kind of a concept of an approach to a skill set of sorts, broad, interrelated areas that are not just skills, but also competencies of sorts that have
Mm-hmm.
to do with how we interact with each other and in the concept of self, right? So first we start with self and self-awareness and self-management. In a classroom setting, I'm just going to use, basic musical ideas. You might have, let's say, a child that has the need to fidget, it's
Mm-hmm.
incredible how you put that kid in a drum class or you give them a rhythm instrument and you have them start to use rhythm, a focused idea that constantly pulls from them, but at the same time works almost as a fidget tool in itself, creates a little bit of self-management and regulation for themselves. It brings in the focus. And it's shocking that when you have kids who might be typically screaming over each other and you give them this ensemble of percussion instruments and you ask them to focus and watch the conductor give them different cues that you could have just taught them right there and then, how focused they become, how much they actually are. Maybe it's a competitive nature, maybe it's this experience of camaraderie, but either way, they bring themselves to a new challenge of regulation and focus.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Interesting enough, we see this in kids, but we take it for granted when it also happens with us as adults. I
Mm-hmm.
I do so much adult programming every week in workshops. I'll talk about this a little bit later, but I work in Skid Row, and other workshops that I teach are also focusing on different demographics, including people with lived experience of homelessness, mental health, senior homes, as well as just any place where we've been finding that this community might be slightly marginalized in some form. We
Mm-hmm.
were able to then bring in a music concept that regulates in a a lot of people use mindfulness, but in
Yes.
self-regulation, self-awareness. The
Mm-hmm.
next step is then social awareness, and that's or relationship skills, how we can hear each other. And that's why I believe in singing an ensemble does this. It probably is some of the best artistic approaches and introductions to social awareness skills. I have a great exercise I do, which I might do with us in a as a warm up or like an icebreaker, where you take a partner and you take. I can't explain the whole exercise; it's a long process,
No, no, that's fine. But
but this module is working with a partner to try to listen to them. And then when we bring in different musical elements, all of a sudden, it's shocking how our listening is turned on to 100% versus just a
mm-hmm.
conversation. And
Yes.
then after we move from social awareness and relationship skills that music can bring us, then it goes into responsible decision making. And that's where we have a place to apply the social and emotional skills we've worked on and we've introduced to whatever demographic, whether it's this elementary school childhood classroom or whether it's a group of adults that are just getting to know each other. Um,
Yes.
and
Yes.
music takes us through every stage.
I'm just finding myself imagining, two people who are polarized in terms of political stance, somehow getting them to sing together. It was be like, maybe we could have changed that way.
Yeah, I think that, you know, someone once told me, God, it was just recently that I just heard this and I loved it. It was a concept of beauty. It was by, have you ever heard of John Cameron Mitchell?
Mhm.
A
Yes.
well-known underground LGBT actor and musical director, and he had incredible pieces. I heard him give a speech, and he was talking about art as beauty, and that whether it's finding a little butterfly on a flower or whether it's a ginormous artistic statement of a piece, art and beauty are something that's so parallel that brings purpose into the world to remind us that things can be better.
Hmm.
Beauty is for us to make you think and ask you to think, can the world be better? Can life be improved and be made beautiful? And when we have those glimmers of beauty, it reminds us that it's possible, it's here, it's in front of us. And thus
Yes.
it can also be attained, and it can be our responsibility to work towards beauty, and beauty defined in betterness of life and betterness of our relationships with each other. So I do think that just the fact that we'll get people with extremely polarized ideas and philosophies, whether they be political or not, or social, etc., that we know that we all can do better. We know that there's another place of growth. And music will remind us of the beauty of a growth mindset.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. And also, I think if you set the intention to find beauty in your world, then you see more beauty in the
Yeah,
world. Yes,
yeah. And
yes.
that will bring about mutual understanding in a whole new way. Another thing that's important in music and song is it's storytelling, it's expression of feelings and heart. And sometimes when you hear people's ideas just written, it feels like um I was thinking about this in relationship skills the other day, where interpersonal relationship skills of like holding a container for someone to share their feelings, and let's collaboratively talk through them together if we need to find a compromise and a conflict resolution between two people. But sometimes when we get into a conflict, we just write an essay defending our point of view, and we send it through
Truly.
and read this and read why I'm right.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to move and evolve from being right and from being wrong to
Mm-hmm.
here is the problem. How do we both work together to collaboratively solve the problem, not solve each other?
Yes. And in fact, from the concept of social emotional learning, there really is not, at least as I read, used in the classroom, it isn't like the child is wrong. It's
No,
more an opportunity to explore how that mistake got made or what was the thinking process, and to make it collaborative. And again, build a
absolutely.
sense of community. Yeah.
Absolutely. And can you imagine how much easier it is to have sung something together, shoulder to shoulder with someone, to have shared voice in some concept, whether it would be a simple song or even oohs and ahs, and then saying, let's work collaboratively, let's build team efforts and team building here to approach not how we can prove who's wrong and who's right, but how we can find a better future where we both can feel right, a future where we both can have taken steps towards making everyone a winner here.
Yes, yes, absolutely. No, that's very, very powerful. So, how did you become interested in social justice?
You know, I don't have a particular moment in time that, wow, this horrible story happened to me and I have this trauma that now I have to serve the world. I don't have that story. I grew up, in North Orange County. I uh, I come from an Israeli family, but I grew up in Los Angeles area my whole childhood, in a typical middle class family that's done had my plenty of blessings and privileges to pursue arts and hobbies that I've wanted that my parents have supported me for. And when I went to college, I just had started growing an awareness of the arts, which was my passion, but the elitism in it.
Yes, yes.
Just as much as I spent the last 15 minutes discussing how arts can bring us together, arts can also be feeding into the problem depending on how it's used. I mean, it's still a tool, and
Mm-hmm.
arts can be a tool for elitism and for classifying others. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
the particular genres and industries of the art world can be extremely exclusive,
Yes.
and inaccessible. And so, arts, despite the deepest part of what art is can be accessible. Sometimes it's been put up into a fortress and with 100-foot walls that doesn't let everybody in.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I was thinking as a young artist that chasing these paths, career paths of either going into the classical music world and going to work at a conservatory or being a session singer and singing on movies or whatever different paths I was considering, being part of the best of the best of the musicians, the elite best, that was what we were taught a lot. We were taught excellence in music as to train us in the conservatory mindset. And I was
Mm-hmm.
starting to just fall so disenchanted um, from it all. And art for art's sake, I couldn't buy into that anymore. I needed to ask art for what sake?
Hmm.
Um,
Yes.
and that
Yes.
gave me the perfect opportunity to just start saying yes to things that were out of my comfort zone. And
Hmm.
I was getting involved with a lot of community choirs that I wouldn't normally say yes to, a lot of education programs that I wasn't visioning. I never trained to be a teacher. I don't have a music education degree. And yet
So I can't call you professor.
I know. And yet, time and ironically, now I am a keynote speaker teaching other teaching artists how to do social emotional learning.
So
And
you're kind of an outsider professor.
I'm definitely an honor a professor honoree of sorts. Which is funny because I am lecturing at undergrad and graduate level at Colburn, and I'm doing other pieces that you'd think as much. But I actually appreciate my background was from the outside, and I think because of that, I have more to offer in my niche of this education and community art world. And then I just by saying yes, you just started having opportunities come that were in the margins, and
Yes.
because nobody else was saying yes. Because these
Yes.
things weren't helping their career trajectories. These things
Hmm.
are a waste of time as far as if you're to follow the flagship elitist routes of what makes money in our industry. And
And
if
there's more and more research that shows that that attitude really leads to depression and dissatisfaction as opposed to true fulfillment. So
it
you're right
really
on.
does. And what
Yes.
happened then is here I'm in this mindset of like searching and exploration. But once I got into those spaces, I'm learning the problem are the flaws in our system. And so one of
Hmm.
the guesses I did was it wasn't my idea. Someone came to the staff of the Colburn School when I was only 2 years on the faculty there and asked, does anyone want to start a program in Skid Row with the people experiencing homelessness? And I'd been doing community work, been doing education programs with kids, and I was still fascinated to do more, and I was hungry. And I said, yes, this sounds extremely interesting to me, where no other faculties was interested. Um,
Yes.
I went in down to Skid Row and worked with outreach workers, my co-founder, Christopher Mack, of this program, which we've now developed into a nonprofit called the Urban Voices Project. And
Yes. And you've been, and let me interrupt for a second because that project has gained the front page of the Los Angeles Times. You've been on All Things Considered, NPR, and NBC's Today Show, and you've been on stage with Dick Van Dyke, John Lennon, Joan Baez. So certainly you have gained recognition.
it's been fascinating because we all know homelessness is a growing crisis in America and in our system. And and I think that what would started as I'm not a fan of this term, but just from the outside perspective, it seemed like, oh, a homeless choir or a choir made up of people experiencing homelessness. It was a fascinating concept at the time. Coincidentally, arts programs as a disruptor and an innovative approach to homelessness has been growing in popularity this last decade. But when we started it in 2013, 2014, it was still a pretty new concept, especially for Los Angeles. There were not a lot of music arts programs as interventions for people going through their homelessness ordeal and their journey back to housing and health and employment, et cetera. So we found it to be when we started it a unique niche and that was very interesting for the world. And like you just said, that brought us a lot of attention. Um, but you know, fame is very fleeting, and especially in the nonprofit world, I will not to sound bitter, but you know, sometimes the feel good stories that the press needs to put out to balance all of the bad it's great to have been getting the features, but really the deeper work is still and to this day and will always be in our work the one-on-one connections and you know, for example, I would have instead of just getting the platform of this television show, there may be lots of people that are sparked their interest, but I know that I'll find true champions for the work we do. Maybe after having some one-on-one conversations, after meeting 10 of your 300 voices over this next
Yes.
month, who really dig in and want to on a personal way get involved in some, whether it's just an audience member, a donor, or coming to volunteer. So yes, this nonprofit idea has been a buzzword energy in the press, but and it's brought us notoriety and fame in some ways, but also that fame is fleeting if we're not continuing to develop the one-on-one relationships with our champions, which for any of your listeners or viewers, hopefully it might be someone here that's wants to know more and get involved in how music and arts can be an innovative, holistic approach to the homelessness crisis.
Yes, yes. And in studying up for this program, I learned a new term, which was, and correct my pronunciation, artism, art activism.
Art activism, or for fun, artivism.
Artivism.
Yeah, I think that art is its own way of could be so loud, and it can bring aware in a good way, and it can bring awareness to a lot of people that may not have taken time to think about these corners of the world. And these days, first of all, I'm a little familiar with Laguna, and I do know that you have everything you guys need in that town. So
Yes.
you don't really ever have to leave.
Well, I go outside to the gym.
Great.
I want to be inspired.
Right. But let's also speak to the greater Southern California area. It's still fairly isolated in bubbles, this whole community that we have here. It's not much. Maybe New York and some other cities and European cities are still those walkability cities where everything is so and metro is really easy to get everywhere, so that just the people meet the people on a regular basis. But in this day and age, with technology the way it is, it's much easier to isolate yourself. So when you isolate yourself in more ways than one. One is physically, but also the second is communication wise. You're in your echo chamber of sorts. It's much easier to stay in following the news you want to follow. If you are on social media, who are you listening to ideas and philosophies and opinions? You're listening to the friends that you have curated.
What you agree with.
It's curated if you've ever heard the term a confirmation bias, meaning you've found the voices you prefer because they confirm for you what you always thought, rather than looking for the voices that you don't prefer because because to be challenged is exhausting. But
and sometimes the experiences are scary. And so for that reason, a person would avoid them. We have so much to talk about, and we're running out of time. So very quickly, if you wanted to speak to somebody who wasn't sure whether they should join the 300 Voices project, what words do you have for them?
Well, to speak on what I just said, it's easy to isolate. It's hard to get out and break the barriers of this echo chamber we all put ourselves in. And I want to invite you all to really take a minute to put the extra effort in, just as one experience of 2024, to shatter those boundaries of your echo chamber, to explore vulnerability through the voice, through being in a room with all of these like-minded bodies of people that want to use music to create mutual understanding. And this project is not about how good of a singer you are. I don't care if you're a professional singer. I don't care if you're a professional shower singer. I want you to remind yourself that you're talking to an expert in the beginner voice who's there to guide you through and make you feel very comfortable as best as my ability, and also to invite you to really explore mutual understanding with your neighbors through song and break that echo chamber and come and meet us and be there with us.
Wow, it sounds wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And I will see you there. And again, I invite all of our viewers to sign up if there's room, but right now there is room to join us, 300 Voices at the PAC, the Performing Arts Center. And that'll be early March, 4th, 5th, and 6th, I believe.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for your appearance here. I'm very grateful. And I'm very excited to see you in March.
All right, we'll see you soon.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.